Today is Sebastian Aho's 26th birthday, and he got one hell of a present. Alright, so as expected, Sebastian Aho has signed an 8-year extension with the Hurricanes. The initial reports were saying it was going to be around 9.5, but he got 9.75 instead. And like I said, anything under $10 million for this guy is an absolute steal. And of course, there's detractors already all over Twitter saying, oh, he's overpaid. He makes more than Tage Thompson. He makes more than Jack Hughes and all this other stuff. And I can go into much more detailed reasons as to why he's making more money than both those players. But we'll look at the surface level stuff first. So the first thing I want to look at here, shout out to JFresh on Twitter. I really love his analytics. He tweets here, and this is about as perfect of a description as you can get of Sebastian Aho. He says, Sebastian Aho signed to an 8-year, $9.8 million extension by Carolina as a high-end first-line center who possesses a well-rounded offensive skill set, is valuable in all situations, produces at a strong rate, and forechecks like no other star. So I want to put a particular emphasis on the last sentence there. And it's something that's going to be in my upcoming video about how Brendan Moore has cultivated Aho's game. There is absolutely no one in the league who is going to forecheck like he does and make the amount of money he does. There is no one who plays with that kind of grind. Aho has all the skill of a first-line center, and he has all the grit of a fourth-line center like Chad LaRose or someone like that. Like, he has all that in his game. It's a little bit more of a finesse forecheck in his case. He likes to play the angles, utilize the fact that he uses the longest allowable stick for his height, and force turnovers that way. Even if he doesn't make a stick on puck play, he normally drives guys back. So in that regard alone, yes, Sebastian Aho, as far as a top 6 forward or a top line center who forechecks, there is no one in this league better than him or that puts more effort into it than him. Now, looking in the bottom right corner of the prospect card here, it has offense versus defense versus finishing. And you'll notice Aho's percentile for defense is above 75. That's the one thing I kind of disagree with on this analytics card here, because I would say that should be a little bit higher, but I'm not one to argue with JFresh on how he does his metrics. I really like how he does his metrics and everything like that. So, looking at each percentile here, even strength offense, he's in the 95 percentile. That makes sense. Even strength defense, I would rank him a little bit higher on that. But at the same time, though, he's always matched up with really good guys 5-on-5. So the fact that he doesn't allow as many goals against 5-on-5 as he does is pretty remarkable, because he's constantly out there against the league's best forwards. Power play percentage, 86 percentile. That is totally accurate. I think he could potentially get into the 90s with that. If the Hurricanes build a little bit better of a team around him, which it looks like that's what they're trying to do. Penalty killing percentage, 98. That is remarkable. Finishing, he's definitely someone who can score a lot of goals, and that's something I'm going to get into here in a minute. He's actually, albeit he's never eclipsed the 40-goal total, he basically is a 40-goal scorer. Primary assists per 60 at 87%. I think that'll go up if the Hurricanes add a couple more players. He definitely did take a few more penalties than normal this season. I mean, he even got into a fight with Jack Hughes, if that's what you want to call it. It wasn't like Alexander Semin and Mark Stahl bad, but it was kind of funny. Let's see. Competition, which is another way of saying compete and effort level. He's in the 96 percentile, and he works really well with his teammates. The teammates metric that JFresh does is particularly interesting to me. I'm going to go into that another day, but let's flip over to the next thing here I want to look at. Alright, so these are all projections for the upcoming season that he has right here. This is also from JFresh. One thing that I'm hoping that's going to increase out of all these, because all these numbers are pretty good and pretty accurate for what he is. The things that I would like to see Aho increase on a little bit more this season is, one, I want him to be a little bit more selfish and shoot more often, and he probably will hit that 40-goal total. The second thing being, even though he needs to be a little bit more selfish, I would like to see him get some more assists, but I think that's more so, one, that's the system he plays in, and two, the team that's built around him is kind of a factor in that and everything. I think as guys like Bunting come in, Orlov's coming in, D'Angelo's coming back, and I really expect Seth Jarvis to make another step. If Nate just stays on the wing, he'll probably be with Aho a lot this season. Svechnikov's coming back, so I think all of his numbers are going to go up. And like I've said before, I never expect Sebastian Aho to be a 100-point player, not as long as he's playing in the system that he's playing in now. But I think he's going to keep that steady point-per-game production that he has in the regular season, and he maintains very similar, almost strikingly similar production in the playoffs. Okay, so Aho has never hit the 40-goal total. But there's a reason for that in a couple of these particular instances. But looking at his career overall goal scoring, 2016-2017, rookie season, he had 24. And that team was bad, if you remember. That team was awful. His second season in the league, he just fell short of getting the 30-goal total. He missed a few games after he got hit by Mark Giordano and had a concussion, and he hit the crossbar at one point. Otherwise, he would have had 30 in only his sophomore season. In his third season, when the Hurricanes broke the playoff drought, he finally eclipsed the 30-goal total, and that was after transitioning from wing to being a center full-time, and he was starting to be utilized a lot more in other situations where matchups were more important and where he's facing off against the best centers in the league. He's being utilized on the penalty kill more. Despite that, his totals for everything went up. So the first time that he almost hit 40 was in the 2019-2020 season, and we all know why that got shortened. With 14 games remaining, he already had 38 goals. So needless to say, in 14 games, him getting 2, despite him having that trend that he used to have of going about 10-15 games without a goal, whether it was at the very beginning of the season or the very end, had kind of went away. During the shortened 2021 56-game season, he still managed to get 24, so in a full season there, it's totally feasible he would have got another 16 and probably made 40 there. 21-22 season, he came close to getting 40 again, and that was with him missing 3 games due to injury. And then this past season, he missed, a handful of games as well. He missed a total of, missed a total of 7 games and still had 36 goals. So Aho has definitely still got some elements of that goal-scoring winger that he came in the league at be. He added the aspect of being really good in the face-off circle and being exceptional in the defensive and 200-foot game. And as Jay Fresh stated, you will not find someone who forechecks harder than Sebastian Aho, and that's not his primary job. That's not the number one thing he's paid to do. But he forechecks like a bottom 6 grinder that's trying to not get sent back to the minors, and that is one of the strongest attributes of his game. Now, one place where Aho has surprised everybody is how capable he is shorthanded. It's almost a treat to see him go out on the penalty kill because he's a danger to score every single time. So most seasons, 2019-2020, he was on his way to really having a career year. I hate that got cut short because as well as he was playing, he could have probably potted a couple more shorthanded, and like I said, he would have totaled out above 40, I think. Where he's really improved that more than anywhere is taking faceoffs. Now, looking at the faceoff percentages here shorthanded, that's very indicative of how good a player is at faceoffs because those are some of the hardest ones to win because you're constantly going up against good faceoff guys with penalty killers. So typically you put 2 guys out there that are capable of winning the draw. You're typically playing against 4 forwards, of which most of them are in the top 6 or at least in the top 9, and you've got guys who are capable of winning faceoffs on both sides. A lot of situations nowadays you get to choose what dot you take the faceoff in. So this is incredibly impressive that he's over 50% a lot of times here on the penalty kill. He dipped a little bit in 21-22, but then he's back above 51.7. So that's an incredibly valuable thing too, because if you can disrupt having possession on the penalty kill right off the hop, then normally somebody else can scoop it up and they either have to wrap it around the boards and get it sent out, and even if they don't do that, they buy you time so you can set up your box, set up your diamond, whatever formation that you're going to use on the penalty kill and everything like that. And also like good raw poke checking, good gap on the point, and good puck support and everything like that on the penalty kill as well to help out the other 3 guys that are out there, or in some cases the other 2 guys that are out there. And that's something else that I break down in my video about him, is how good he is shorthanded. So, and guys who do well shorthanded don't just grow on trees. None of these guys grow on trees, but having somebody who's really good shorthanded is definitely something that he was molded into by Brind'Amour, and that's part of the reason why he's making the money he's making. He maintains a lot of these same trends in the playoffs as well. For example, he's almost point per game in the playoffs. Let's see here. Yeah, he's very close to being point per game in the playoffs and everything like that. He's plus 20, and like I said, plus minus is one of those things that you shouldn't put a whole lot of stock in my opinion. If it's inordinately low or inordinately high, it's kind of telling. But if you're a -8, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a bad player. You could be on a bad team or a team that's not, all about defense like the Hurricanes are, maybe you don't have the heaviest forecheck, but maybe you have a really good transition game and you get a lot of clean entries and score off the rush a lot, you could be on a team like that and be a -8 and still be a great contributor, for example. Being +20, though, on the Hurricanes is pretty indicative of him having the defense-first mentality and everything like that. Like I said before, and this applies to the postseason and the regular season, both, but it'll be more reflective in the regular season than the postseason, in my opinion. Let's say the Hurricanes do add someone like Tarasenko, or Bunting continues to produce at the same level that he did in Toronto, and then you put him with Aho. Regular season scoring will probably go up inordinately, especially like his assist totals. In the playoffs, it'll probably be higher than it has been in the past. It still won't be as high as in the regular season because you're constantly playing against good teams, you're constantly playing against desperate teams, and everything is on the line every single night. So I think that these totals will go up as well. So one last thing to look at here, these are Aho's possession metrics, and they are incredibly good. Let's see. Career average of 60.4 in Corsi percentage, 7.6 Corsi relative. Fenwick 59.6. He's got excellent possession metrics, and Aho is pretty good at holding on to the puck, and he is a good distributor. It's not the number one part of his game being a distributor. He is definitely more of a scorer than a distributor, so that's why I would like to see him take a little bit more of a step and be a little bit more selfish, shoot the puck a little bit more often, but don't be afraid to try and make a play too, because you become enough of a scoring threat, people are going to get hyper-focused on you, and that's going to open up passing opportunities so that you can distribute the puck to somebody else and let them score. So there's a possibility that if Aho just focuses on trying to put a puck in the net more often himself, be a little bit more selfish, start shooting the puck a little bit more often because he's got a hell of a shot, then he's going to start scoring more, and ultimately he's going to contribute to the team with more goals but maintain that great defensive game that he has. So you could almost put it on a continuum of the things that Aho is best at. In my opinion, his 200-foot game is the best part of his game. Despite all the offense that he can provide, I think that what he does defensively is often overlooked and often subtle. He's starting to get Selke votes now. This past season, he got 28 of them. I don't know if he'll ever win it because, like I said, I don't understand a lot of the criteria of the Professional Hockey Writers Association. I don't understand the Hockey Hall of Fame criteria as to why Brind'Amour and Alex McGillney and a few other guys aren't in there. But when it comes to what he does defensively, I would say that is his number one part of his game. The second best part of his game is his ability to score goals. He's incredible at shooting the puck. He's a very dynamic scorer. He does it in a multitude of different ways. He can bounce it off the back of the goalie's mask from behind the net. He can snipe you. He's got a one-timer. He's very dynamic when it comes to being a goal scorer. He's got a multitude of ways he can score on you. So that's another thing that I'll look at on the heat map is all the ways that Aho scores. So now this is not a super indicative stat, but this is something that I want to show just for the sake of making it abundantly clear that Aho does have the capability to single-handedly win and take over games. Of them, he is absolutely the difference maker in that game, and if you take him out of the equation, it's either going to overtime tied or the Hurricanes don't win. So out of all these, 5 of those, he was the complete difference. So he does have the ability to say, fine, I'll do it myself and go and take over games. In the 2019-2020 season, I saw him do that probably more than I ever had at any other point thus far in his career, and that was only his 4th season in the NHL. So he does have that capability. It's not the first thing he tries to do. He's definitely more of a team player. He's going to try and carry the team back into it, but he does have those moments where he can be a game breaker, where he can take over, where you can give him the puck and just let him go. So it's going to be a different video that I really, really break this stuff down. But the moment that it was announced on Twitter, there were a bunch of people saying, oh, he's overpaid, he makes more money than Tage Thompson, he makes more money than Jack Hughes, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so here's one thing I'm going to argue off the hop with those 2 players immediately. One, Aho is a better all-situation center than both of them. Aho is better defensively than both of them. Aho's a better penalty killer than both of them. Aho's a better matchup guy than both of them. That's just 2 examples of people they were saying make less money than Aho, and that indicates that Aho is overpaid. Second thing to consider is his scoring is incredibly steady, and he has a longer resume of being a difference maker in this team's forward core than either of the aforementioned players. And that's not to say that either one of them are bad. If I had to put someone out there to put a puck in the net, I'm definitely taking Jack Hughes over Sebastian Aho if I had the option. But if I want to send somebody out there for almost any situation, Aho's who I'm going to tap on the shoulder to jump over the boards. So that's not to say that Jack Hughes is not dynamic or that Jack Hughes is a one-dimensional player or Tage Thompson is a one-dimensional player, but Aho brings certain things to the table on the defensive side of things. Guys don't do it to the extent that he does. when I was doing the research to analyze his 200-foot game in comparison to Brindamore and what it looks like Brindamore taught him, it's actually even better than what I initially thought it was just from breaking it down. You're getting a matchup center, getting a guy who is going to start eclipsing 40 goals, and the only reason he hadn't yet is because of shortened seasons and injuries. Take out the injuries in the shortened season, he's probably already eclipsed 500 points, but unfortunately things didn't go down that way. So here's what I do think is going to happen. Aho is about to have the best year of his career, I think. I really do. I think he's going to have a better team around him than he's ever had. He's going to have Michael Bunting out there to, make sure that nobody does anything that they shouldn't do. Seth Jarvis is going to take another step. He could potentially be put back with Svechnikov and have a line of him, Jarvis, and Svechnikov, and then he wouldn't have to worry about scoring so much, even though I think that he should be more selfish, but he'll have two great guys to distribute the puck to on both wings. So we'll see how all that plays out and everything, but this is a really good deal. It's actually less than what I expected it to be initially, because when I made my initial thoughts on this, I thought it was going to be $10 million by 8, and they managed to get it down to 9.75. I'm pretty sure this takes us out of the Erik Karlsson sweepstakes, but honestly, it's a sweepstakes I don't really think we needed to be in. I'm waiting to see how the rest of it plays out. The Hurricanes will have a good defensive core, and between Bunting and Orlov, they have added some scoring. So we'll wait and see what happens in regards to if Tarasenko still comes to the Hurricanes like we all initially thought was going to happen, or if they still make a trade for another winger or a second-line center. I have my thoughts on why Nate just hadn't been put at center yet, and that's going to be in a separate video that I'm actually going to do right about now, and then we'll go from there. But just wanted to highlight the basics here. This is a good contract. This is a good deal, and considering the cap is going up $4 million after next season, when this extension actually kicks in, he's still making the 8.4 that he's making right now. It'll be basically almost the same as you signing him to a $5.75 million contract that kicked in now. So this is a good deal. It's an absolute steal, and he's only going to get better, and I'm expecting him at some point to have 90, 95-point seasons. Him having 100 is not out of the realm of possibility. I just don't see it happening with his style of play and how he's bought into the system here in Carolina. So that's all I've got for this particular video. I plan on having another one out today. Y'all take care, and I'll see you next time.